Hello and welcome to One on One. I am Cyril Stober. Now, to give a detailed description of my guests will perhaps take all of today's program. So in very brief terms, let me say I'll be with a foremost lawyer, academic, administrator, arbitrator, author, a senior advocate of Nigeria, and former Director General of the Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies. Let's welcome Professor Epiphany Azinge, who holds the national honor of OON. Prof, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Not long after your tenure as Director General of the Institute of Advanced Legal Studies, you were appointed as a member of the Commonwealth Secretariat Arbitral Tribunal. Tell us a little bit about that and what it does.
Well, the appointment is based on election, and it is the country that nominates, and it is the country that is elected. So precisely, I was appointed based on the election of Nigeria and indeed Africa to have a representative on the board of the arbitrators. And so I sit there representing Africa and Nigeria on that particular board. We basically have a mandate to listen to disputes arising from members of the Commonwealth Secretariat and also issues pertaining to interrelationship between Commonwealth countries as and when they arise. And we sit periodically based on the cases that arrive for determination, and once that is done, a panel of 3 is constituted and we're all invited over to London to sit. And in a year we may have to be there 2 or 3 times, as the case may be, for a period of 1 or 2 weeks to listen to such cases. But that does not determine the finality of the matter, because in some cases you also have people appealing against some of the decisions reached, and that will necessitate forming another panel of 5 to review or revisit whatever decisions were reached hitherto. So to that extent, I know that it's quite a busy arbitral tribunal, and the membership is top of the range, because all over the world where you have Commonwealth nationalities, the best and the brightest seem to be picked to sit on that. So for some of us, we benefit immeasurably from the knowledge garnered from the expertise and experiences of other people, and to a very large extent we also inject our own expertise and knowledge as far as the issues at stake are concerned.
Very busy time for you, though.
Yeah, very busy, very busy.
It's always been a very busy time for you, even at the Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies. And so this probably demands someone with a high work ethics. And I see that these days you're interested in the matter of work ethics.
Yes, to a very large extent I am, and I believe that these are observations made not necessarily from staff of the Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies, but many places I've visited in the country. I've come to this realization that the work ethics in the country is less than satisfactory. And when you observe from other climes like Ghana amongst others, the way people pursue their duties, the way people are prepared to earn their wages by ensuring that they work for it, you see that there is a sharp contrast between what obtains in Nigeria and what obtains in some of those places. And you begin to wonder, where did we miss the point? We were colonized by the same set of people, but the situation seemed to be different. Is it inherent in their system, or is it that we missed it somewhere along the line, maybe because of the oil boom and what have you, and people feel that they can cut corners? But for me, the setting up of my foundation, the Epiphany Azinge Foundation, led me to this realization that it is not just to highlight it, but one must take positive steps to ensure that something is done about it. And for me, I've taken it as a way of giving back to the system, to go to offices and places to speak on the issue of positive work ethics, the importance and relevance to the system, and what we stand to achieve as a people if we embrace that. And to a very large extent, I believe that people are given listening ears, and hopefully I know that in the course of time things will change for the better, and the advocacy that I am carrying out will be one that in future one should be proud of.
Well, you're very familiar with the question of ethics, and your primary constituency, well, determines that to a large extent. So let's come now to the matter of the law. And a number of questions are raised all the time about the ethics of this profession. Now let's begin to talk about that.
Well, we are all trained, obviously, to become lawyers, and one of the foundations that you have to have is obviously understanding the ethics of the profession at all levels. And we're so well spelled out in the sense that you should know the do's and don'ts, the right from the wrong, the good and the bad, what is expected of you as a lawyer, what is not expected from you. In the law school, professional ethics is one aspect of what you are taught. And every good lawyer, and indeed every lawyer, should and ought to observe to the details the professional ethics as taught by the Nigerian Law School, and which obviously is supposed to live with you all through the days of your life, one as a practicing lawyer, and as a gentleman who has been privileged to call to the bar. More often than not, few bad eggs will emerge, and they tend to run contrary to the ethics that they are supposed to uphold, and that is expected, because in a situation where you have almost 120,000 lawyers at the bar in Nigeria at this point in time, it is expected that few people will turn out to be the rotten eggs in the basket. But that does not in any way signify that all over the place you have lawyers who are given to running counter to the tenets of professional ethics.
Well, this next question perhaps would try to explain where I'm leading to. How would you describe the quality of the bar today?
Well, the quality of the bar is not as it should be, but it is not disturbingly low, so to speak. Well, if I am to score, I should say that we have slightly above average bar. To that extent, I mean the quality of the lawyers that constitute the bar, and the capacity and the competence of those people to hold their own anywhere in the world. To a very large extent, I know that most of Nigerian lawyers have done exceptionally well outside the shores of this country, and to that extent it means that our products are not as bad. But like I keep saying, we still have those who for one reason or the other were not at the top of their class, and that's why you have first class, second class upper, second class lower, and third class. Until we'll erase some of those degrees, maybe third class and so on and so forth, people naturally should fill in those gaps, and those that fill in those gaps are not expected to perform at their optimal best as those with first class. So those variations would definitely come to the fore when they are in offices and they are charged with responsibilities, or when they appear before the court. So those who see some of those people who are not at the top of their class in school will feel that that is the quality. But certainly, when they meet others that have done exceptionally well coming up the ladder, they will also know that we have the best and the brightest in the profession.
So a little above 40%. Has that impacted on the system, the legal system itself of the country?
Well, to a very large extent, I would say above 50%. But even at that is not the best we can offer. We should be thinking about 70% or thereabout, which is an alpha. But I know that there is a lot of room for improvement. But for those who have done well and who obviously are at the commanding heights of their profession, and those who are obviously leading institutions and agencies up and down the country, you can tell that these are people that have been well groomed and well schooled, and obviously they are given their best in terms of leadership and in terms of administration, and of course offering pieces of advice to their superiors where they are obviously acting as counsel or legal advisors in offices. So to a very large extent, we have impacted on the society, but we can still do more. There's always room for improvement, and I believe that the challenge of the bar at the moment is to ensure that things continue to improve. I know there are so many indications from the just exited leadership of the bar to see what they can do in terms of reform of the legal profession. We have a bill that is in the National Assembly at the moment, which though has not been passed, but obviously being tinkered with in order to make sure that what comes out is the best for the bar. So there are areas that people are thinking of how to improve on performance, improve on the quality, improve on the level of teaching, among so many other things, and ensuring that we can only absorb the best and the brightest that we can afford into the bar. So I know that it's a matter of time. We will have a much more improved bar with quality representation, and one that this country will be very, very proud of.
Now, speaking of a matter of quality, and of course, as you've just brought in now, bills and the passage of bill, let's link this with a recent scenario. Let's take, for instance, President Buhari's withholding assent to the electoral bill due to some drafting errors. At the Institute of Advanced Legal Studies, you do teach a little bit of legislative drafting. And so we are seeing a bill, we're seeing a president withholding assent for the reason of drafting errors in a bill. What does that say?
Well, drafting, like you've rightly pointed out, is a highly specialized art as far as the legal profession is concerned. It is not given to all to appreciate the nuances and the techniques of drafting. Hence, it is one of the core mandates of the Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies. And like you rightly pointed out, we go to every length to ensure that those who we train are given the best in terms of knowledge and competence, and obviously improve professionalism and expertise in the act of drafting. Well, there are so many other people elsewhere who may not be properly groomed in the act and may not understand the nuances and the techniques as well as they ought to. And to that extent, stylistic infelicities will come in, what inelegant drafting will always come in. And if for one reason such are detected at the point of signing, certainly it may become an impediment to a very large extent and a challenge. And what that requires is that the style rather than the content is what should be, the issue. So it's obviously disappointing that it is the style rather than the content that is the issue at stake. So we want to urge that the best that can be done in the circumstances is for the bill to be taken back. Some of those rough edges should be cleared, and certainly I'm sure that once the content is not the issue, I'm sure that Mr. President will not hesitate to sign as the need arises.
But we do know that matters like these are prone to being interpreted in very charged political terms. And we may be seeing this playing out where lots and lots of citizens do not understand the procedures and say, look, this is another in the face-off between the executive and legislature. So shouldn't more be put into avoiding matters like this that can, be interpreted wrong?
I agree. In this era of politics, the whole issue can be politicized one way or the other. People are bound to read meaning. Maybe who stands to benefit by the bill being signed and who does not sign to benefit by the bill not being signed. Some of those issues may come to the fore. But again, we believe that any serious administration, any serious government will not just out of politics they refuse to sign a bill. There could well be other undertones, and like you've rightly pointed out, if there are some stylistic infelicities or rough edges that needed to be cleared, not having to do with the content, I think that it's also a burden for purpose of interpretation going forward. Why should we allow such rough edges to be taken to the court of law for interpretation when such can be handled properly at the point of drafting? Because what normally happens is that the inexpertise of the draftman ends up on the table of the court, because neither the user or even the lawyer will give appropriate interpretation to it, and certainly it is only the court that will be invited to do so. So when dictated early, it is the responsibility of the draftsman to check again and correct some of those infelicities as the case may be. But like you rightly pointed out, at this critical point in time, I believe that whatever we can do to make sure that confidence is built around electoral system, one inclusive of ensuring that a particular bill is signed at a point in time we were talking seriously about the budget allocation to INEC amongst other things. I believe that all this put together should be harnessed in order to ensure that going forward to next year election, people already believe that we are faced with a credible, fair, and obviously acceptable election that we can all be proud of. But once we start missing the points and we're not able to dot the I's and cross the T's at this point in time, certainly some people may want to read meaning into it and believe that some people are playing politics.
Prof, your PhD thesis, you dwelt on electoral law. So today we ask, what is the issue with Nigeria as a nation? Is it its electoral laws, the imperfections or otherwise in it, or is it the way it is practiced?
Certainly the latter. We have one of the best laws, and I don't think the dynamics in terms of improving on our electoral law can be equated with anywhere in the world. Not in Canada, not in Australia, not in India, not in UK, and not in the United States of America. I believe that we have one of the best laws at any point in time. And the way and manner we improve on our electoral law, like I said, is none that can be equated with any other country. So we don't have problems with our laws. But the political will to obey those laws, to deploy those laws, and to make sure that those laws, you breathe life and vitality into those laws. That's the challenge we have as a people. That's our major. So again, that gives vent to idea of politicization of so many things. So is it likely to suit my political party? Is it likely to suit my electoral prospect? Is it likely to suit XYZ? So we leave the norm and we start playing around it. That's the challenge we have. And in the process, so many people are doubted. It's either you doubt the government in power, or you doubt the umpire, or you doubt those who are seeking nomination and one thing or the other. So that is basically the challenge what we can see. But in terms of law, I can say that without fear of contradiction or equivocation, that we have one of the best that one can think of anywhere in the world. But do we have the political will? to make sure that we comply with the tenets of our law and ensure that it is done naturally without qualms, whether you benefit from it or you don't benefit from it. So I believe that political will is where we are lacking.
And it is this politicization that invariably leads to so many cases being taken back to the courts and clogging the legal system. And you think that a huge amount of time is spent on determining things otherwise that the courts should ordinarily not have been, brought into.
Well, 2 points. One, when I am defeated in an election in a very obvious and glaring manner, I have no business having recourse to the courts, because whatever be the case, it is more than obvious to me that I was roundly and soundly beaten at the polls. I may not have to take that route anymore. But in a situation where things are wrapped in secrecy and things are untoward and there is an infusion of dynamics that are totally uncalled for and the forces of coercion are introduced into the system amongst so many other things, naturally, people are bound to believe that they were not given a free and fair election, and let us see what we can get from the court. But are the courts unduly saturated? Yes, they are, and regrettably so. I think that we've gotten to a stage in this country where we should spare the courts the agony, and that is what I call it, the agony of unnecessary litigation arising from electoral matters. Have we not come to a stage where our politicians can easily say, well, we live to fight another day. This is the end of this process. Another 4 years, or as the case may be, there is always room for a comeback. And we take it along that line and spare the courts the agony. In the process, we now have fallouts, the issues of compromising the judges, and so many other collateral damages will come from it, whether rightly or wrongly. So I think to a very large extent that we should know when to say enough is enough. But the caveat is that let us ensure that we have free, credible and fair election, so that at the end of the anybody going to court, somebody will say, please let us examine his head to make sure that all is well with him.
We'll come back to electoral matters, but let's spend some time on the judiciary and the whole process and reforms the judiciary. That's where we want to go to now, with particular reference to the delay in justice. How well has this addressed that?